You mentioned your tool belt before.
Yeah.
There's things that we generally use on a work site. And I suppose the very minimum thing, I've got a number of elements from my toolkit here, but the very minimum that we kind of expect or want our crew to carry is a multi-tool. A Leatherman, a Gerber, whatever you want to call it. For non-discriminatory reasons, we're going to call it a multi-tool.
Nice one.
And yeah, it's just one of these things that has multi-tools in it. Come in handy for all sorts of things.
Yeah, and it's pretty expected on most jobs that you'll have one with you.
Yeah. And then the next probably most useful thing, as Erson mentioned, was tape.
Electrical tape.
Electrical tape. He's managed to find this clear one, which I've seen around. But yeah, it's interesting. And black one's the one we normally carry, but depending on where you are, there will be a requirement for silver or white.
Yeah.
You're not expected to carry all of them, but just carry some form of electrical tape. That'll be very useful to your client.
It's pretty easy to accumulate lots of tape. You'll see once you start working a lot, you'll have probably tape in different places that you thought you'd never find. So it's kind of like no excuse not to have any tape on you, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there are a number of tools down here. You guys can pick them out and
The
them.
next most commonly used and useful thing is a podger and a shifter. Podger for tightening up bolts, obviously, especially on truss. We do a lot of truss. And a shifter.
Yeah.
Shifting spanner, obviously.
So
Use
not a
those
lot
all
of
the
people
time.
actually know what a podger is.
Okay, podger. It's a ratchet spanner. Like this. Most of them look like this and have two different
The
sizes
sizes,
on
are
either
they
end.
9 and...
19 and 24.
19 and 24.
19 and 24, I think, is the standard that we use most on the rigging, I think. But it can change. So there has been other sizes that we use.
Yeah,
as
but
well.
these are that's the most common size. Most
Yeah.
bolt heads fit in with that.
If you do a ship with Lighting Lab, they have this special Fandangle tool. You don't get to keep one. You have to return it, please. But that's a nifty little tool.
You might think that these podgers are expensive, but you can actually find them on eBay for about $20. So it's not that expensive to grab one. If you feel that you're going to lose it, maybe don't get the most expensive one all the time. Like I said, you can literally find one on eBay for about $20. I know, because I bought 2 of them. So yeah.
I think I got mine from that red tool shop.
Yeah.
With the guy with the white hat.
Total Tools.
Total Tools. That
Total
one.
Tools. That's not bad, that one.
They're
It's
often about
$45
$40 or
yeah.
so.
I think mine were on specials. I think I got them for like 15.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Bargain.
Bonus.
It's often handy to have a Sharpie with you. You never know what you might need that for.
Very much so.
I don't think it's mandatory, but you can always get some gloves. I find these really useful, especially when it's cold. And it's also good to be hygienic too. It keeps your hands cleaner than they would get. And also you can avoid little bits and pieces like your hands getting hurt, getting pinched in kind of between cases. And it literally, I think it's helped my hands a lot over the last year and a half since I've had them. And they're not that expensive. I think about $25 maybe from Bunnings. It gets you a good pair. So definitely something to look into if you care about your hands, which I think is kind of everyone in this industry, being audio or lighting or vision. Yeah.
I never used to because I really struggled to find the right pair of gloves.
Yeah.
But it turns out they're coming out with more and more types of gloves. So it's a lot easier to get something you can actually feel through.
Yeah, these are excellent. They've got magnets there too, so you can hook on little things.
No way.
I don't have magnets in mine.
Yeah.
Especially good for packing trucks.
Yeah, absolutely.
A torch can be handy, especially if you're working in audio or if you're opping.
Or in the back of the truck when it's very dark and you're
In
loading.
the back of the truck.
I
A little torch, very handy.
I got a head torch.
Yeah.
Rod has a head torch.
Yeah, that's in there somewhere. A big pack. Knives and blades. So often these are on your multi-tool, but side cutters are very handy for cable ties, which we come across quite a bit. Stanley knives. We do not recommend that you carry these unless the job specifically requests it. We've even
Especially when we're near cables.
Yes.
Cables anyway.
Yeah. We had someone slip with a Stanley knife and cut down their wrist, and that was not good news for anyone. So just don't pack a Stanley knife if you don't need it. If you've got a multi-tool and you've got side cutters, you do not need a Stanley knife.
Not so much a tool, but something definitely you'd want to consider when you're working out in the sun is some sunscreen. Because when you're out in the sun in summer for 8 hours doing a bump in, it does get pretty hot and you will find yourself getting burnt in the sun. It's just unavoidable. Maybe a hat as well is something to consider. If that's
depending on the job.
Depending on the job, yeah.
Tape measure. Occasionally you need one. I've got a tool bag that I wheel around with me, so that just sits in there. Takes up very little space and it's very useful sometimes. This thing has saved my life multiple times. It's a little plug tester, and you plug it into the end of a lead so you can see if it's got power, and it lights up red, green and blue if it's working. I don't remember.
Is that expensive, Rod, or is it pretty cheap, aren't they?
No, they're pretty cheap. Yeah, you can get them at Bunnings. Mine came in this little tool pack because I got my test and tag ticket as well, which is handy. So I've got a multimeter and another power pen, which lights up if you if there's power in a lead. That will light up and tell you that lead has power. So all my stuff electrically sits in this little case and goes into my tool bag. Also in my tool bag is where I keep my vest. These little carabiners, you get them for like $2 at Kmart. Really handy, just clip them onto your belt and you can clip your tools onto that. Or even the right size carabiner means you can clip your tape onto it as well. When you're working in close proximity with others, which is I think the next topic that we're going to talk about, I keep some mints in my tool case because there's nothing worse than having someone talking to you really close and you can taste what they ate last night for dinner.
No. Nice.
Unless you're into that kind of stuff.
Well, if you are, then go for it.
But for a basic starting point, have a multi-tool with you.
Yeah.
And try and keep some electrical tape with you.
Yeah, look, my collection of tools is a collection over 20 years, so you don't need all this stuff. It's just stuff that helps me function a little bit better in what I do.
I found on most of the unessential tools that I have are usually available on the job when you're there. So sometimes they don't expect you to bring them, but sometimes they'll have podgers there, they'll have shifters, they'll have everything that's required to get the job done. But yeah, essentially maybe a multi-tool and some tape is always something to consider having on you.